Hello everyone and welcome back to Beyond the Veil background information. We're doing another Angels and Demons one today, and we're going to be focusing on the Archangel Uriel. You hear more of his name than you do a lot of others, but still there's not as much information as like with Gabriel or Michael. But as usual, what I do is I give you a little quote from one of the stories that I have the character in my Beyond the Veil series. Then I'll talk to you about the information I have on this character that I've utilised for the character, and then I'll give you my character profile and their position in the actual story. So let's get into it. Phanael took a hefty gulp of anxiety as he stepped into the room with Phanael at his side, but his eyes locked upon the other figure with hair the colour of fire and skin the colour of warmth. Uriel was sitting patiently upon a seat with an empty one before him, calm and non-judgmental as he waited for Phanael to take his seat and sob his truth to the Archangel that was making the case for Phanael to remain in heaven. But already the stained angel knew he did not deserve mercy. That's from Cruel Temptations. In keeping with the Mystema court trend and picking another Archangel with a lot of information on them is the Archangel Uriel, an angel named as one of the most important and whose very name means Fire of God. In the non-canonical lore, his role varies. He has been described as a seraph, the regent of the sun, the flame of God, a cherub, an angel of presence due to possibly confusing with Phanael as mentioned before, presiding over Tartarus, and in this case as the angel of salvation. They're quite high roles, and well, he also has many variations on his name, varying from spellings to phonetics to a name like Uriel, and as mentioned before, he appears in later Judaism, replacing Phanael in literature. He has a good number of roles in the various works featuring angels. He has a role in the story of Ezra as the interpreter of his visions, and like many angels, he also appears in Enochian lore. In Enochian lore, he is titled as one who watches over thunder and terror, the messenger sent by God to warn Noah of the flood, and as well as the angel of presence in later interpretations. He also appears in the Book of Adam and Eve as an angel of repentance, potentially the angel wielding the flaming sword at the entrance of Lost Eden. He's also been described as having aided in the burial of Adam and Abel within paradise, holding into this idea of repentance. In the varying later sources, Uriel has been amongst many angels to be credited for jobs like the other messengers have been linked to, such as Enoch's mention of him as the messenger sent to Noah. But he has been identified in similar roles and associated with the angels Nergal, Uriel, Jeremiah, Ratel, Suriel, Puriel, Phanael, of course, Joel, Israfel, and also an angel Jacob Israel. If you look at the script that I put up on Patreon, it's free to read, and there's a link in the description for YouTube. You'll actually be able to see how these names are spelled, because otherwise it takes too long if I try and read them all out to you. In the Legends of the Jews, volume 310, Jacob narrates a story in which Uriel came forth and spoke, "I have come down to the earth to make my dwelling among men, and I am called Jacob by name." It's confusing no matter what source you look at, but it's suggested in Gustav Davidson's A Dictionary of Angels that it might represent Uriel entering into Jacob after wrestling with him. This leads to an Uriel that has curiously been considered the Dark Angel to wrestle to this in 2 Kings, 1935, and 2 Maccabees, 1522, where he's also called the destroyer of the hosts of Sennacherib. Sorry for the bad pronunciation. These are probably the most aggressive sounding possibilities for Uriel to represent, as it would make it sound as if Uriel might have become a sort of fallen. But then Genesis 32 suggests it's different, and then Exodus 4:25 suggests a benign angel that attacked Moses over not observing circumcision. That's also supposed to be either Uriel or Gabriel. The different interpretation from the varying sources can make your head spin around when you're trying to explain Uriel or any of the other high-ranked archangels, or should I say more well-known. But generally, Uriel is not considered a darker entity. But I prefer the interpretation of Uriel within the Sibylline oracles, where he's described not only as one of God's immortal angels, but on Judgment Day he will break the gates of Hades and bring forth judgment upon the souls of Titans that were swept away in the floods, and bring them to God's seat for judgment. This is the sort of action, along with him being described as an angel of repentance, that has helped me develop my version of Uriel. But as Milton is one of my big inspirations for the characterizations of some of these older angels, I thought to give you Milton's description of Uriel too. In Paradise Lost, Book 3, Uriel is described as the regent of the sun, the sharpest sighted of all heaven, and is a pious character that guards earth. However, in the poem, Satan arrives to him disguised as a cherubim, and despite his keen eyes, Uriel mistakes him, and upon learning his mistake, informs all the other angels about the situation. He is apologetic for his mistake, and a good angel that perhaps has a little too much naivety to the situation. He is also said, alongside Raphael, to have defeated Adramelech, a fallen angel in the story. Uriel appears in a lot of literature and stories now as an angel less known than Gabriel or Michael to the populace, but a name recognised enough to hold importance. He is considered a saint like Michael and is often depicted carrying a flame in his hand. He is also associated with the month of September, and in demonology circles can be summoned for aid by anyone born in that month. In fiction it's 50-50, of course, whether he's viewed as a good guy or a bad guy, whatever way the fiction goes, but in general, Uriel is one of the big names known as an archangel and summoning protective spells, or if you use oracle cards or just call on angels for protection, he will aid you. Sorry it's a short bit, but I didn't really want to go for another discussion of a character like Gabriel, and thought to include the details that were relevant in my own fleshing out of Uriel. Once again, I used he to represent them in the comments above, as they are another case of angels generally being denoted as he, although not necessarily to be he. For this next part, which is my profile of him for my stories, as always, the angels are agender, and I hope you'll find my interpretation of Uriel interesting. Name Uriel, position Archangel, guardian of earth and wielder of the divine flame. Stories featured him, various including Cruel Temptations and Hellbound. Role, defending lawyer for Phanael in Cruel Temptations and representative of gods in Hellbound. Gender, agender, though seen most often as male, they are just as comfortable in female form. Description, almost a mirror to Phanael, in fiery hair and earthen skin, like with seams like lava running through it. Their great eyes are often deemed pallid or pale yellow, but when looked into, a man may see himself being judged and feel the fire of the Almighty upon him, or feel themselves being comforted and warmed. Not overly muscular, with an androgynous face, unlike Phanael, they give off the aura of a benevolent watcher. Realm, heaven, though enters them as still a court for important souls. Abilities. With the sharpest eyes of all angels, Uriel can even look into hell itself to see if a soul has been trapped there, and to monitor the lives of humans. They cannot be lied to, and their eyes will automatically change in the intensity of their stare depending on when they see a sinner or a saint. They wield the divine flame, the power that can condemn a being into hell with a single touch, sever the soul from the body, remove the wings of an angel, break down the very construct of the universe itself, and even open out the barriers of hell and the veil itself, a power they hold great patience and understanding of. They also wield both a flaming sword and a flaming spear, and are able to change the temperature of the sky at the command of the Almighty. Uriel also has a great power that demons might think is rather benign, but holds great power over others. When one speaks to Uriel, the angel can truly understand the words, and in this capacity can bring comfort to those confused or guilt-ridden, and guide towards the path of healing in subtle ways. In doing so, actually burning through the influence of a demon, so a human's desire to change can come forward. Master of the almighty powers. Personality? Often viewed as quiet and diligent, perhaps even a little too stiff to cope with a joke, Uriel is a better listener and watcher with an ability to guide and speak more through gesture and action than by word. They have a great love of mathematics and like to view the world as a series of algorithms and equations to help them better judge when a matter is serious. Despite their ability to fight with terrifying fury, making them the second most feared angel after Michael, Uriel is more tempered and controlled. They do not have a spiteful streak, and when they make mistakes, they are able to solve them quickly, accepting it as part of a divine test. Uriel is actually very kind and has a fondness for occasionally walking upon the earth, sitting down on a bench and listening to a troubled mind, seemingly out of the blue. They like solving problems, and like to think that all mankind can fix their problems and fight demons without too much interference. Relations. Phanael. Brother in fault and joined in fault at times too. There is an unspoken connection and perhaps even a higher affection than all others. They work well together, and though sometimes confused for one another, they do not mind it. Michael. Though sparring partners before the fall, Uriel has found themselves working as the moderator to Michael's temper and severity against certain reactions, which Uriel aids them with. Raphael. When Uriel feels the need to speak their mind, all their concerns, they call up Raphael and sit and talk together. Raphael helps Uriel feel calmer and more assured that they are doing what must be done, and therefore sometimes consider one another best friends. Gabriel. Uriel is one of the angels Gabriel goes to in order to speak their mind, and they are close and thoughtful with one another. Uriel has more understanding of Gabriel's concerns, and is one of the few who can help Gabriel remain calm. Lucifer. Uriel has always had cautious manner around Lucifer, and yet was not aware how dangerous Lucifer could be. All the same, they hold a sense of respect that is sometimes given back, and wish to one day curtail Lucifer's desire for the earth and hear them speak of repentance. Belial. Uriel has found that Belial is the greatest spoiler, the greatest spreader of disinformation, and as the one to arrange contracts to mean souls are not given a chance, Uriel sees themselves as the opposite number to Belial. They do not get along, and Belial will even call them cloud brothers just to frustrate the other. Belial alone can anger Uriel. History. Keeping it short here, born of the same thought of Phanael from the divine fire of truth, Uriel was originally an angel of truth that was then given control of the divine fire, an item that would allow for all manner of control over the universe of God's creation if wished. Uriel understood it was his job to protect it, and thus his job to also guard what has been made. With all the angels of truth holding the oaths to keep the world working, Uriel is then taken as the watcher of the domain of earth and protects it from the dangers to come with the fallen angels. As Uriel held a high position in heaven, they were often in court with the four main angels, Lucifer, Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael. Raphael was the easiest to get along with, as they held the secrets of healing and forgiveness that Uriel understood. Gabriel was easy too, as they both held steadfast ideas of right, wrong, and the nature of the Almighty's plans. Michael and Lucifer were different, though. From Uriel's viewpoint, they would watch the pair enjoy the world and work to not only praise the Almighty's work, but change shape to test the world for the life that was upon it. Uriel sometimes joined, and often they played mock battles with Michael, and learnt how to wield weapons, although never quite sure what use it would have when the world was wonderful. But Uriel sensed something about Lucifer was wrong and different. It was Uriel who summoned the others to Eden when the kiss was given and the tree of knowledge formed, and Uriel who pushed Lucifer out into the world beyond Eden's beauty to think about their mistake. It ends up being Uriel's own mistake, for during this time Lucifer accidentally causes the death of a primitive human and is identified as a being that has brought an end, making the free angels of death awaken onto the world, and with it the truth that there is a power beyond survival. From there, things only go badly, with Uriel and Phanael forced to help Gabriel round up the angels for battle before approaching Raphael and begging them to speak to Michael. Uriel learns that the Almighty anticipated battle, and this was why they had an awareness of battle. Uriel and Phanael work the hardest to take out the most fallen. Uriel's flame severing wings and breaking all other divine weapons. They intend to face Lucifer and make amends for their mistake in letting strife come into the picture, but then Michael steps out to fight. With Michael being victorious, Uriel aids them in cutting wings and hurling the traitors from heaven but forever Uriel is trapped watching the influence of the demons upon the earth, and always hoping to be called out to aid against them. Like the others, they participate in the culling of the Nephilim, the punishment of the Gregory, and the various prophets they are sent to aid or give strength to. Uriel is then called upon to aid in defending the greatest souls of those deemed heroes amongst men within the Mastema court to aid Phanael. It is only for those of great deeds that Uriel becomes involved in, and so the Mastema court is not often graced with their presence, save for special souls where they battle in words of Tammuz. However, when the issue of the veil and the demons within harming humans outside and inside became obvious to heaven through the court, Phanael, Gabriel, and Michael meet with Lucifer, Nergal, and Belial to arrange a new system of dealing with demons that perform acts upon humans that can cause death or the stealing of a soul to hell through unwelcome means, i.e. contracts with clauses written in ways humans cannot see it. As part of this, Uriel accepts control of the angels that will aid in dealing with the humans on the receiving end of the situation, and to work alongside the enforcers from hell, whom he regards with some level of affection. Final comments. Odd statement to make, but when Idris Elba was chosen to play Heimdall for the foreign Avengers movies, etc., I always found myself thinking that their depiction of him in the room looking out at the world reminded me very much of Uriel. Indeed, there's some correlation between the god Heimdall in Norse mythology and the role of Uriel as a guardian spirit, and in Milton that I often feel there's a great similarity there, and it undeniably helped influence my thoughts on Uriel's own interpretation, if I likened it to my own impressions of Heimdall in Norse mythology. So sometimes I end up seeing Uriel in that kind of role. Just an odd thing to say, but another point on where inspirations can come from, I suppose. Thank you for listening.